Hi.
And I'm Deirdre Figueiredo, the Director of Craftspace. So we've got three mini sessions today. First is going to be in conversation between Stefanie and myself. So we'll start with Stefanie. I was just going to ask you to recap on your training quickly so that we hear what course you were on, where that was, and so the starting point.
Okay, so I began my jewellery career. I studied at a technical college for 2 years in Glasgow, and then applied through there to art school, and then did my 3-year degree at Glasgow School of Art, which I graduated in 2013. And then went on to new designers.
So you, during that time in your study, what were you working on, and then we can explore how it changed and really developed. So your final project.
So it kind of started in my 3rd year, which would be the year before my final year, because I think it works a bit differently down here. And I did a 3-month exchange to Tokyo in Japan, and that sort of gave me some time to reflect on what my practice was and what it meant to me. So when I returned, I had an idea of where I wanted to take my work, and so I started looking into sort of social engagement and looking at ideas of Fluxus movement and good fine art and design to sort of see people that worked with the public, but through trying to make their own work as well. And then I also looked at different jewellery techniques as well.
And then during your 3rd year, was it, you applied for an award?
Yeah, it was the Deutsche Bank, so it was my final year for that.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of my final year, I created a project called Open, and then you'll see the cards all over the tables there. It was a way to engage a wider audience with contemporary art jewellery, just through my own frustrations of trying to explain to my friends and family what it was that I actually did. So this was a website, so the idea is you take the card, on the back there's a link to a website. You go to the website and it gives you information about contemporary art jewellery, but also instructions on how to make your own pin. So you can sort of see the beginning of the social engagement coming through in my work. And from that idea, there was an award through it's Deutsche Bank Awards in Creative Enterprise. So they asked you to submit a business proposal, which is like a full business idea where you have to learn about cash flow and things like that. But I found that it really sort of got me focused on what I was doing. And through learning with them, I then worked with them to strengthen the idea of Open, which has now become what it is just now, but we'll talk a bit about that later.
And you were telling me before that the process of going through the Deutsche Bank Award and sort of almost, I suppose, being up in front of almost like a Dragon's Den type thing, you were able to get that critique and that feedback. How important was that?
Yeah, I think that was really necessary to where the project's developed now. I think having the insight from other people, because I think when you're on your own it's easy to go along with your own ideas, but you need to sort of open it out and have discussions with people, and these were industry professionals, so they gave me more input into my business plan, which then helped me in my pitch to then go on to win the prize. So it was really, really worthwhile.
Was it a monetary prize?
Yes, it was £10,000. So
wow.
it was really good. So £10,000 plus I think a year's mentor with them, but also just lots of added extras with their networks that they have. They're always sort of looking out to sort of help you out and see who they can pair you up with. If you need any legal advice, they set that up for free. Yeah, it's been invaluable. But I think the award is actually, they do 15, and I think they have one for Birmingham City. I'm not quite sure which university she's all attending. Yeah.
As applied for the lecture.
Yeah, so it's a prestigious one and really worthwhile, but it is a lot of work.
So how did you put the business plan together? I mean, that's quite something for an undergraduate to do, to get that award like that. So did you get any help with that, or were you naturally sort of able to?
Well, they give you a day's sort of intensive training course on here's what we want in your business plan, so you have an idea of what they expect. Even that, just going through that stage is worthwhile enough in itself. So even if you don't have a formulated idea at that point, it's still worthwhile going to find out what it's all about. So they give you that for a week, and then they have sessions then where you meet up with one person, so you can go and discuss your initial idea with them, and then they can give you advice on how to do that. So that whole process is completely free and definitely worthwhile.
Okay, so everybody who applies can get
Yep.
that. Okay. And you're also talking about a bit of a dilemma within your training and college experience about whether tutors felt where your work kind of positioned. So the ideas around your work started to prove challenging for you to try and position and place yourself. So how were you coping with that at university?
Well, I think I made a decision that I needed to sort of follow my own path and not adhere to everything that they were telling me, which is, quite a challenge. I had a few tutors that really sort of believed in what I was doing, but then there were a few that didn't really quite understand it. So what I really had to do was I had to treat it as separate things. So I had to present a whole jewellery collection, which have similar veins and ideas of the materials I use, but also then present open as a sort of separate project. So I had to sort of double up and do twice the work. But I felt that it was important for me to do that because it was a way of working out and setting myself up for once I've left. Really, because I think a lot of the time you go through your degree and you're not quite sure where you go next. So that really helped me sort of gather my thoughts and actually, this is the way I want to go forward.
So you graduated and then New Designers was the first.
That was the first
exhibition
out with Glasgow.
Yeah. It's a combination of exhibition and trade, isn't it? So with all these colleges. So what did you learn and what was your experience at New Designers? Would you say it's worthwhile?
Yeah, definitely. It's difficult. You can't really sort of plan for what's going to happen at New Designers. It's a big centre down in Islington, and you're up against all the sort of graduates from your year in the same sort of areas that you work. So it's really big. There's a lot for people to see, but it's definitely the place where people go to see new graduates work. And so you've got gallerists that may approach you. You've got people like Craftspace that's who I met down there. And even just sort of the general public buying your work as well. So it's definitely important, and then you can get write-ups in magazines and editorials and things like that. So I would say it's definitely worthwhile.
And some people might expect things to sort of happen straight away, but what was your experience of talking to somebody down there and then something happened? How long did it take before something happened? Is there an example you can give where?
Well, for example, with Craftspace, it was it was in the June, and then this project happened in September, so that happened fairly quickly. So I knew what was happening there. I think it was Emma that approached me at my stand, and I got to explain about the project, which I think I must have done about 100 times over that weekend. But that's another thing, you get the confidence in explaining your work to people, and you just sort of, if you're passionate about your work, that'll come across. So it's an important learning curve for that. But we also
it was how long do things opportunities
take after.
Should you be patient about
well, you never know, it
pop
could
up
be.
Again?
I still had one or two people contact me for commissions. That's something that might happen 6 months later, a year later. It just depends. If people have that, your card, and they have that idea, I remember speaking to them, but they just don't get round to getting in touch, or maybe they don't have the money at the time. You never know what will come after that. And also with galleries as well, they'll then maybe want you for an exhibition or a show that they're curating, and it fits better maybe 6 months later to a year later. So it's something you just have to be patient with and hope that it's worthwhile for yourselves.
And how prepared were you? Did you have a website ready? Did you have business cards? How prepared do you think people should
I think
be?
As prepared as they can be. Your final year is definitely the most intense year you'll have. And it depends the way your course is shaped, but I would recommend definitely business cards if you can have a website up. Because I did the open website, I also then tried to do my own, so maybe my own one maybe suffered for that, but I think I still had a presence there online that people can go to, that you can click a link so they can email you, just in case they lose your card, they remember your name and things like that. So I think it's definitely important to have that trail with you. to be able to then give people your work. Because if they see your work and there's no card, all they have is your name, and then if you don't have a website, how are you meant to get in touch?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think these things are definitely important. And another thing I would say is if people are interested in your work, try and get their details as well, because at that point you can then chase up and follow up on those people that are interested. Because they see so much, it's quite overwhelming, but if you send them a follow-up email saying, I remember talking to you about my work, would you be interested still? That kind of thing.
So then Insight was one of the first commissions, presumably, that you
yeah,
had.
that was.
And one of the reasons that Craftspace does Insight is because it's one of the few opportunities for new graduates to make site-specific work and socially engaged work. So those are the two things that Craftspace is very passionate about. So it's about taking work out into the public realm, right in front of the public there and then. And when we do big other sorts of public commissioning, that kind of work, the sort of higher value work, usually goes to established artists. So when people apply, it's quite unusual for us to be able to, give that commission to a newly emerging artist just because they don't have the experience. So part of why we do try to do Insight is it gets something on someone's career with a bona fide organisation that has credibility, and your work fitted, your opening project fitted perfectly into our idea of socially engaged practice, but also something that could be in the public realm and work quite well. So how was that experience for you?
It was invaluable, I think. I think through when I met Emma and we started discussing what Craftspace was all about, I was like, oh, this is perfect place to showcase my work. And at that point I'd only done it within the university at the degree show, and then just with the cards that I'd left around. So it was a nice opportunity to then take it a little bit further and see what it would be like in a complete public space with a completely sort of different audience. So that was really a huge learning curve and sort of helped direct a path that I took with my work. So again, like these opportunities will come up, and it's just making that decision to do it, and that often takes your work off on a different tangent, but it was definitely something that I gained a lot from.
And how does working in a public space like Cathedral Square, how's that different from working in a gallery space?
Well, usually when people go to a gallery, they're already in the frame of mind to spectate or even participate in a project of craft-based. Somewhere in a public space, you just have people that are going to be walking through. It's something that they'll stumble across. It's something that they might not even understand, but then it's interesting because you then can change people's perceptions on art or craft, but also engage them in a way that they would never expect or you would never expect. I think it's just complete, randomness of it, it happens. So it's just definitely a completely different audience. I mean, people will come knowing that it's there, that are regular followers with yourselves at Craftspace, but generally most of the people that I've seen the square, definitely the last time and this time as well, have been complete strangers to making or even engaging with the arts at all. So yeah, it's really worthwhile.
And how does something all the things that people have been making, how does that impact back on your thinking and your practice, or have an impact and change it in any way from the relation? Because your work is quite relational, I'd say. So you're talking to people, they're making in response to something, a conversation they might be having with you, and then that might affect their choice of a material. So it's kind of definitely there's a relation. You can see when you're watching the way you work, but definitely you don't just give people materials and say they are getting on with it. There's definitely
it's a bit of a collaboration.
It's a bit of a collaboration, and that's part of your practice. So does that impact that on you and your thinking as well?
It definitely does. I mean, the whole background of working like that comes from that I don't really like. I love making jewellery, but at the same time I often feel a bit guilty because I feel it's quite self-indulgent because I'm not actually giving back. So part of this is a way for me to feel, I think, okay when I do make jewellery, and I can help other people by making jewellery. And through those conversations that we have, it's really interesting to just let people feel safe and feel relaxed enough to be able to talk about things that not necessarily other people will listen to usually, but also just, you know, a complete stranger, but feel comfortable enough to be able to do that. And then with the materials we have conversations then about, okay, so, you know, do you want this to be, you know, represent something? And, you know, quite a lot of this week people have been quite open with discussing, okay, so, you know, this is a cross because I'm religious and I want to, you know, this is something that's important to me. So also you see people's personalities creeping into the work, whether it be through sort of colour choices or material choices. It's really interesting that you could almost see the person in the piece that they make. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, definitely we can. Yeah, there's some pieces on there.
The pieces are mainly examples that we've shown people, but the images that go along beside it are all people that, I think we must have seen about over 50 people this week that have made work, and there's an image of most of them up there.
Do you want to explain the Open project a little bit more?
Yeah, sure. So Open, we are now a collective, so we've been evolving since it started, and we do exhibitions, and we also have a studio now based in Glasgow. So we do workshops where people can come to our space, but we also do them out with them. That's what I've got down to Birmingham just now. And Open is mainly a way of firstly engaging with people, but then trying to get them to see contemporary jewellery. There's quite a lot of different levels to Open, so it's quite intricate to explain. I'm just thinking what we're not covered already with it.
So that with, the idea is that the people with the original idea was that they make a piece of jewellery.
Oh yeah,
and then they take a photo of themselves with it? Or?
That's right, so when people find the card, they would then go to the website. You can then get the instructions on the website, and then at that point, if they wanted to share the picture, there's an online gallery of what people have made. So there's just now lots of pins that people have made, and the idea is to encourage the use of sustainable materials, sort of sentimental than like sort of valuable material-wise. So it's got levels of encouraging good ethical practice as well.
So I was going to ask about, there's definitely a sort of an ethos and a philosophy around your work. Did that start, would you say that started very much at college? You already had that at university in your coursework, and you already had that ethos developing and an idea of your philosophy around material choices, around lifestyle sort of choices, and concerns for the environment and concerns about people and behaviours and that sort of thing. Was that strongly there already? Yeah,
I think I made a decision to work out really what I was interested in myself, and through that make my work reflect that as well, because I didn't want to contradict myself in the way where, like, precious metal industry, the gemology industry as well can be quite detrimental to the environment or other people. So I was always sort of interested in working out ways where my work would not do that, but within an environment of sort of material items. And then with Open again, it's got that sort of social engagement where I feel that I don't have to work on my own, but at the same time I'm working with other people, and through doing that and hopefully helping other people, even if it's just for 5-10 minutes.
So would you say it's important to find out or express what your values are as you're a student developing your work? Is it important to find your values and then express those? Definitely.
I think that's what makes your work stronger, because then you're truly passionate about what you're making, and it completely fits in with your life. It almost becomes your life, so just be warned as well. But I think for me that was the right path, and you never get bored if it's something that you love and that you're interested in, and you have a sort of drive and ambition to sort of push it forward. So I would just be trying to work out who you are as well.
So when you were at New Designers, you were then approached to you were invited to apply for 1 year on.
Yeah, that's right.
So that was another step that happened at New Designers, wasn't it? So did you apply for that and then you were selected for that?
Yeah, so they go around the stands and then they invite people to do the 1 year on part. So through that, I then had to submit a proposal, and then they get back to you. I'm not quite sure how many people apply or anything like that, but yeah, so that was great, and I signed up for that and decided to go back to New Zealand for a second year, which was good, and I've made some contacts to then stock my jewellery in galleries, but also then becoming invited back to Insight for the 1 year on residency for here as well. So yeah,
just finished. And did that throw up its own challenges? Because I know you haven't resolved everything.
No, not at all. Not at all. Everything's a work in progress.
Still, are you still trying to resolve the balance between the open project ideas and your own trying to develop your own selling range, and how to make the two things work as a whole?
Yeah, it's definitely been very challenging. Not much sleep, working seven days a week. I think on the run up to New Designers, I was working on quite a few different projects as well, whether it be with Open and doing workshops, or even helping curate shows for like my curate. I've been off on so many different tangents actually since it's all happened. So it's just been very busy. So I found it really difficult to concentrate on actually making jewellery. So at the moment I'm working out if I am a jeweller or if I'm more a social sort of working more with social engagement work, or it's just finding the right balance. So at the moment it's still decisions that I'm working through, but at the same time my happiest time is at the bench, because that's when my head is completely free. So yeah, I think I need to be able to make time for that as well. And yeah, I've got quite a few commissions and things to make as well. So I think it's important for me to keep that, but it's still working out a way in which I do that and be able to still do the other two things.
And in terms of sort of making a living, feeding yourself, putting a roof over your head in this last year since you've graduated, have you had to take on other work, or how have you, but then you also have a passion to try and make a living as an artist, maker. So how have you struggled with that or balanced it out? Have you done other jobs?
Yeah, well, I've had a consistent part-time job where I work 3 days a week as well on top of everything else. But that's allowed me to then focus on everything for those 4 days a week. So yeah, so I have a studio space which I go to when I'm not at work, and that's where I can sit and work out my open things, or try and pick a day to do studio work as well.
So you used some of your £10,000 to set up the idea of the Open.
Yeah, that was all used. That all went towards that.
The Open Collective idea. So how many people involved in that now?
Now there's 7 of us. It sort of evolved from 1 or 2 people that were interested and have a similar ethos, and now it's 7. So it's sort of helping now to spread the workload, because we've got quite a few people interested in workshops, and yeah, I've had some of the girls up in Scotland doing some Tramway, which is a good sort of contemporary art space. And yeah, it's important, I think, for me not to become too attached to the idea myself, because I think it can grow and more people will then be able to benefit from it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So what the business model for the Open Collective is, a group of people, you do workshops,
we put on exhibitions. Yeah, we're hoping to go to Schmuck in February, if we can't get it this year, because we're all quite new to this.
So Schmuck is the kind of jewellery festival in Munich every year.
So
every year or bi-yearly?
Every year, yeah. So it's the main place in Europe that you would go to sort of view contemporary art jewellery. So yeah, we're hoping to do that. So with more of us, we feel that we can make more of a presence, and also then be able to sort of spread the workload of the finance side of things, the funding side of things, and hopefully go bigger places and do bigger things. So.
And in terms of art jewellery, which you're kind of positioned between, because yours isn't really, it's not commercial, it's not really commercial jewellery, more art jewellery really. So how difficult is it to position that jewellery and find a market for it?
Yeah,
it helped being at 1 year on New Designers, or are you now looking at other avenues? Obviously, Schmuck is a good thing to go to because that is about art.
It's more of a showcase as well. I'm not sure, and again, it's not always about making money. And something that you feel that you have to do, and I think it's just working out ways in which you can then sustain that living. I think to be able to make a living straight away if you come out university, people will understand that it's quite difficult to do that, and it's just to find your markets, and then you find out that it's really niche as well. With the art jewellery, it's like ladies that are more affluent that can afford to sort of invest in these pieces or are interested in that sort of vein. So it is working out then if you do a bit of more commercial jewellery on the side, or if you sort of stay true to what you're doing but then work in a completely separate job. So it's personal choice and what people want to do. So. But for me it's just a bit of a mixture of things.
So what have you got coming up next?
Coming up next, we've organised a big showcase and exhibition in the Brigade in Glasgow, and I'm hopefully going to be able to take a wee holiday over, and then Christmas jewellery will start after that, and getting into some of the galleries with that.
So if you had 3 top tips for new graduates, what would they be?
I would say take a wee break because it's quite intense in the final year. But don't take too long a break, just sort of keep applying for things, keep approaching people, get yourself, I say marketable? No, that's not even a word. Ready to market yourself. So again, with your website, your business cards, make sure all your details, like your packaging is down, like galleries really appreciate these kind of things when you approach them and you want to make it as professional as possible. I would also say be open for critique and don't be scared of it. That only will help you sort of push yourself and move on, and just enjoy it as well. I have to keep reminding myself of that. I do enjoy it, but it gets busy and intense. So enjoy it, whatever you do.
Great, thank you, Stephanie. That's about half an hour chat.
Okay.
Does anyone have any questions for Stephanie before we move on to the next bit?
I've always spoken out.
Great, thank you, Stephanie.